like many fundraising professionals, I backed into this wonderful world of nonprofit fundraising by helping a dear friend run for U.S. Congress in 1984. I had cut my teeth on the family general insurance agency business in Atlanta, Georgia, and did that in the first 5 years of our marriage. And then I got into the business of medical surgical supply industry, to where I had a successful career for a number of years, working with some major manufacturers like Johnson and Johnson and Baxter Travel Laboratories, and in helping them to market and to oversee the sales. I was national sales southeastern sales manager for J&J for years, training new people to sell our products in hospitals and to physicians around the country. And I was doing well in that business when a dear friend of mine called me one day and said, "Hall, I'm running for U.S. Congress. I want you to help me." And I said, "Sure," because I'm thinking licking envelopes and making phone calls, and he's thinking raising money. And he finally explained to me what he wanted. He wanted me to come join the campaign, be the director of finance for the campaign, raise money for the campaign, and should we win, and we were confident we would, he wanted me to go to Washington with him, and together we would change the world. And if for some reason that didn't work out, he made me an offer to be a part of his very successful business, a radio and TV empire across the country. And he offered me a position in that if for some reason we didn't win the campaign, he wanted me to come into business with him. So it was sort of a win-win situation for me. I said yes and yes, and went into the campaign and learned how to raise money in a political environment. And we were very, very successful in raising money for the election. During the campaign, I made 2 trips to D.C. with our candidate, with Stewart, to meet with some congressmen and women. And incidentally, at that time, in '84, in that year, there was only 22 women in Congress. So I was meeting mainly with congressmen, but also a few congresswomen. I was involved in helping to try to introduce legislation that would help the textile industry in both Carolinas. But by the time of election time, I had decided I didn't want to be in the political world, that I did not want to be a politician, and I was pondering what my next step was going to be, when a very prominent man in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, who had been my volunteer campaign finance committee chair captain, introduced me to the old Ketchum company. That may not ring a bell with you, but Ketchum at that time in 1984-85 was the largest and oldest fundraising consulting firm in the world, founded by Carlton Ketchum. And I went to work for Ketchum, where I got some wonderful training on how to be a fundraising consultant. And that led to ultimately being a partner in 3 other nonprofit fundraising consulting firms, one of which I was an equity partner. And for the next 25 years, I was a member of 3 of the best fundraising firms in America, and I also was a chief development officer for 3 major hospital organizations, as the chief development officer for their supporting foundations. So I was doing very well, and both as a consultant for more than half of my almost 40 years in the nonprofit sector, and the other time being as a chief development officer. So I'd seen fundraising from both sides of the desk, as the nonprofit fundraiser and as the consultant to the nonprofit fundraising system. In 2007, I retired from the University Medical Center Foundation of Memorial Health University Medical Center in Savannah, Georgia. And at that point, Alexander Haas Martin and partner offered me back a position to come back with them because I had been with them. In fact, I was with Alexander Haas Martin and Partners as the consultant to Memorial Health University Medical Center, who recruited me to run their foundation. And when I left AHM&P, they had said, when you're ready to come back, come back. Well, in 2007, I retired from the medical center, and I did go back into fundraising consulting. I was doing that in 2007, 8, and early 2009 when two friends of mine in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I live, invited me to go to a 2-day conference about major gift fundraising. It was called Major Gift Ramp Up. Well, at that point in my life, the last thing I needed was another Major Gift Fundraising Conference 101, because I had done a lot of major gift fundraising through the years very successfully. I had actually taught for the old NSFRE, which became AFP. I did a lot of conferences, annual conferences where I would do training and major gift fundraising. I did it for Association of Healthcare Philanthropy, and also for a period of time was on the Duke University nonprofit program, teaching around the state for nonprofits on how to raise major gifts and board training, etc. I did not need to go to another conference, but in deference to my friendship with the two professional fundraisers, my local AFP chapter that I thought the world of, in deference to them and out of respect for them, I said, yes, I'll go to the conference. The conference was to be in Greenville, North Carolina, about a 2.5-hour drive for me. It's going to be a 2-day conference. And so I told my wife that morning, as I was leaving early to drive to the first day of the conference, I said, I'll be home tonight, because I mainly was going to please my friends who invited me to go, but I knew that I didn't need to stay over for another day of another conference. So I left and went to the conference. At the conference, I began seeing, as Jimmy LaRose was presenting the Major Gift Ramp-Up model, I began seeing laid out in a beautiful 13-chapter form pattern the principles, the moral, ethical, and technical principles of successful major gift fundraising that I had lived by my whole career. And yet I was really impressed as to how Major Gift Ramp Up organized the steps in successful major gift fundraising based on principles that I myself had always worked by and lived by. The first one being, number one, that the best philanthropic gift is the gift that meets the need of the donor to give, not my need to get. And then the second major principle of that we had to earn the right to make the ask of any donor, and that indicated that you had to build a relationship of trust and discernment, and would know the right time or whether or not it was appropriate to make the ask. At lunchtime, when the break, I met Jimmy and talked with Jimmy for a little while. I stepped out into the lobby of the hotel where the meeting was. I called my wife and said, honey, I'm staying over. I'll see you tomorrow evening, because I decided that I needed to stay in the second day to learn more about what I was being exposed to. Long story short, that at the end of the second day, I knew that I wanted to be a part of Jimmy's organization, because at that time in my career, I saw a way that I could help many, many more nonprofits that I was not able to help in my other consulting relationships. That his firm would offer me the opportunity to see smaller nonprofits as well as the larger nonprofits have access to training, education, and information and materials that could help them to be successful at a fee that was reasonable and doable for most nonprofits. So with all that in mind, I left the fundraising firm I was with and came on board with Jimmy LaRose and Major Gift Ramp Up through Development Systems International. And for the last almost 15 years, I've enjoyed the wonderful world of major gift fundraising, with Major Gift Ramp Up of being our tool. I hope you're here today because it may be possible in your career time to want to consider being able to help others to be successful in major gift fundraising. I look forward to the opportunity to talking with you after today. I want to give you a call to get to know you better, see what your plans are, and see if there's a way we can come together on mutual ground of relationship and association and enjoy this trip together as counselors for people who really need our help in order to fulfill their mission. So thank you for being with us today. I think you'll have an opportunity to learn a lot. Please ask questions and make sure you don't not get your questions answered. And when I call you, I'll look forward to seeing where you are and what information maybe I can supply you to help you make a decision as to what you want to do, and for us to share with you all the information that you might need to help make that decision. So thank you for being with us today.